We're joined by Fabrizio Carboni, head of the ICRC's delegation to the United States and Canada. Fabrizio, thank you for coming back to Faith Nation. You know, one of the biggest tests in the ceasefire already has been and continues to be the return of the deceased hostages, which is happening slower than expected. What can you tell us about those efforts and the challenges the ICRC faces in facilitating their return?
I mean, first, I would like really to insist how important it is to bring back the mortal remain of the people deceased in Gaza to their family. And I want to insist on this dimension because it's not just a point in a peace agreement. It's something very important for the families, because if you don't have the mortal remain and the body, you can't grieve, and more importantly, you don't know, and you stay in a situation of ambiguous loss, and it's a permanent state of torture. So first, it's really important. Second, it's the level of destruction in Gaza, the number of unexploded ordnance, the level of chaos prevailing over the last weeks, months, makes the work slower than expected. And we will have to be patient, resilient, and continue this relentless work of finding all the mortal remains and bringing them back to the family with dignity.
Yeah. I mean, when we talk about the living hostages who've been brought home, you know, we saw those emotional scenes yesterday as they were reunited with their families. We know that ICRC, they can't, you know, you can't speak to individual cases per se, but more broadly, what kind of support do people typically need after being held like that in captivity for so long? And how do your teams help families and survivors begin that recovery process?
I mean, first, the work starts the moment they get into an ICRC car in Gaza. We have always doctor with us, because we never know in which state people will be handed over. So since the beginning, we follow with medical staff the hostages, and then they are transferred to the Israeli authorities. Our experience is that the Israeli authority is very well organized and prepared, even if we know that the process for hostages and families, because I think we often underestimate the trauma and the pain of families waiting, it's taken care of, but it's a long process, and it's a patient process. It's a process, you know, once the camera won't follow anymore this issue, they will still need some support and some help. So it's, we're confident that in Israel there are the resources, even if there were very painful instances where some hostages release couldn't overcome the pain and the trauma of their ordeal. But we still, knowing the capacity of the Israeli authorities and the civil society in Israel, we're quite confident that the needed support would be provided, and especially the psychological support.
Real quickly, we just have a few seconds left. I have to imagine, you talk about the trauma for the hostage families and the emotions. I wonder the emotions that exist for you and your teams as you're bringing these hostages back and the remains to their loved ones in just the few seconds we have left.
Look, it's always a mixed feeling. It's happy for what's happening for the people in front of us, being the Israeli hostages, the Palestinian families, and at the very same time, we're already thinking about what's next, what still needs to be done, and this is probably the message from a humanitarian perspective, you know. It's going to be a long process. Right. There will be ups and downs, but we need to stay absolutely focused on the needs of people.
Yeah. All right, Fabrizio Carboni with the International Committee of the Red Cross. Thank you so much for all that you all do and for being here with us today. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.